When you're open to it, vulnerability is power. And it's phenomenal. And it's the only song I've memorized in my entire life. I think the same thing is true, is you have to be vulnerable, you have to risk, you have to be afraid and terrified, because those things really bring you to your core. And then suddenly the things that were absolutely terrifying to you are the most beautiful things in the world. You know, we get that analogy everywhere we go. But it's different when you think about it as opposed to when you feel it. And when you feel it's a whole different experience, because then you understand the depth of it. My name is Shazar, and this is my story.
I look at you and I see everything that a man should be, right?
Ow.
And no, I'm serious. And you know, you are so genuine in who you are. You go out of your way to help anybody, whatever the situation may be. And you're always there to just turn somebody's day around. And I admire the hell out of that. So I think I'm very excited to do this article with you. And I think that this will showcase what I'm really trying to achieve, because you're the definition of what I see article as. So that's what.
Wow, that's humbling. That's humbling and praise from on high, because it's kind of a reflection. Because when I look at you, I'm like, Weber's got it together. That's where we need to be. So, oh, shucks.
Well,
I'm gonna blush.
Well, that's how I look at you as well. You know, because I hide things a lot, because sometimes I don't have it together, and I think everybody goes through that,
yeah.
Right? And you know, there are days I struggle with different things, but I don't want that to bring somebody else down, right? Because it's not fair. I'm dealing with it. I don't want you to deal with it, right? So I'm not going to put my emotion on you. But at the same time, hiding that kind of helps, because I kind of just lose sight of what I'm dealing with, and I'm with people that I enjoy being around most of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I wanted to open it up, because that's how I see you as a person, and I think it's the perfect fit for Article 21. So, thanks.
You're welcome.
I want you to open it up and kind of just give a brief overview of who you are.
Sure.
What you do, and kind of like your main passion of, you know, your biggest hobby and stuff like that.
Got it. So let's see. Sorry, my name is Shazar. Shazam with an R, Bizarre with an S. It's become kind of a tagline at this point. I'm sure there's some copyright laws I'm breaking every time I say it.
I haven't heard the bizarre one yet.
That was yet?
That was different.
That's a good one.
Okay.
So let's see. I'm 35. I've been living in Long Island now for close to a decade. Before that, it was the Bronx, Westchester, and then before that, stint in Canada, most of it, and then young kid, South America, Guyana. So coming here is a whole different culture shock for me. A lot of who I am now is come discovery. I think my dad, my other brother, has it easier. He grew up in a country where he knew his roles and things like that, then moved here. My brother grew up here, so he knows the culture here, and I kind of navigate between both parts of it. So all of my high school and college life has been like reading books and research, like who am I, what culture do I fit into, and what do you do when you're part of both. And it opens up a lot of gray area in everything, because you're never fully assimilated into one culture or another, so you kind of have to build your own from both. And it's kind of the path I've taken with everything. I look at the work I do now. My main passion, or I'd say my calling almost, is service to others. And the outlets I have for that is the work I do as a technician, educating others, and also my photography. It's kind of my worldview now because of how long I've been doing it. So even when you talk about those darker moments when there's doubt and things like that, like the worst part of my life, my camera brought me through it. And whatever goes on, it's very easy for me to grab back, because it's my comfort now. That's also a lot of how I engage people. It's like I always assume they're having what seems to be the worst day of their lives. And my job is not to make it harder. It's, let's get you to a point where this is your sanctuary. This is like, whatever happens everywhere else, in this area right now, this is peace. And that's been one of the driving forces. It's hard. I know how it is for me to find my place, and I don't want to impose that on someone else when they're doing their own struggles and whatever there's going on with them. And I want to add to that. It's like, hey, it's cool. Whatever's here, we'll figure out here.
Cool. So, I know a big thing that you do is you have journals.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that something that helps you, I guess, keep your mind off things, or is that kind of just another outlet for you to find that peace to move on?
It's changed over the years. I started writing journals for everyday events, and I didn't know what I was doing with them in high school. In college, I had a girlfriend who was hyper literate, and I had to keep up with her writing skills. So I learned to journal, and we kind of communicated that way. When I couldn't speak often, I would just write things. She would read, and we kind of communicate that way. So for me, it became a great outlet of like, hey, here's what I'm feeling, but I have difficulty expressing that verbally. And as gone on from there, now it kind of writes as almost to advocate, and when I look back, it's also like a morale booster to myself. So years ago, I used to write with the mindset of, who will you be 5 years from now? And will the person you are 5 years from now recognize who you were when you wrote that? So my journals now kind of straddle different parts. There's some of it that is reminders of, oh, hey, you did this a year ago. This was a cool thing. Others are, this is kind of your daily life. Is this the life you want to live? And then other parts of it are, these are your goals and aspirations. These are your inner thoughts. What do you want to do with this? And that's more important work for me, because that sets me up for where I go next. Once it's written down, it's tangible, and once it's tangible, I can do something with it. So for me, all my journaling, it's a contextual history of who I've become and where I was. It's almost like a time capsule.
Okay.
So it helps a lot to filter out exactly what I was trying to say. And a lot of it I can't read now because I'm a different person, but I can still see traces of what I was trying to say. I can articulate it better now than when I first wrote it.
Right. I mean, I think that's a good thing, because I try sometimes, not necessarily like physically writing it down. I just write it down on my phone, because I don't open up at all.
Yeah.
And you can ask people in my life that it's not necessarily a good thing. I wish I could. I do. And I wish I had another outlet and was able to just sit and just write everything that's on my mind. So I feel like that's a good thing to just get into. I'll go into other things about your journal entries at another location just to
Sure.
tie it in. So is there any, going off of the things that you talked to me about already, it could deal with that, or it could deal with a negative or positive thing, any point in your lifetime that kind of made a really humongous impact on who you are today?
Yes. So we're saying this a couple of minutes ago, like it's hard for me to remember or to contextualize life before I started working where we work now. I started that job, I was a completely different person before I started that, and I'd made mistakes at that part of my life that even to this day, I wake up and I'm like, why'd I do that? But it sets me up now. So every day I wake up, I'm like, I know what I've done, I know what I have to do next, and I strive to make it a better day for someone else. One of my best friends, closest friends, passed away a few years ago, and that's probably the hardest thing, because up until that point, I felt completely invincible. I was like, no one in my family or my friends have ever passed away or been injured or hurt or anything like that, and that just took that right away from me, and I was like, oh, well, now you're mortal. And that's harsh, because that person to me was, like I said, the one you open up to. It's like this very small group of people.
Right.
And that basically got taken from me. So you reevaluate everything, and you reevaluate even people you spend your time with at that point, because it's like, it's one thing to be sad and to empathize with people. It's another thing to, like, can you hold their grief? Can they handle who you are when you're not your best. Because, we look at the work that we do on a daily basis, it's a high level of work. And I think sometimes the inverse of that is when you're low, it's a deep low.
Right.
And you kind of have to have the community that kind of can be like, hey, show me your worst, and we'll handle it. But I think his death was kind of the biggest thing for me. And then beyond that, I think it's been slow daily realizations about life in general. Like, when I say from two cultures, you kind of have to find out, well, what are the markers? Like, okay, what tells you you've become a man? What tells you you've achieved something? And a lot of those markers aren't there. So you got to make up in your daily life. I know days where I feel like I've accomplished something, that becomes my new milestone, and it goes right back into my journal. I'm like, hey, this day I did something, and this was a step to the direction I want to become a person of. And those things help. But I'm waiting for the next one. Waiting for the next wow moments. It's like maybe 3 minutes ago. Still processing all that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow. Berber looks up to me.
I do. And thank you for, I ask these questions, and, when I talk to people, I'm trying to reach out to people on a written-based platform for those I can't get to at the moment that live across country or wherever in the world. And I ask that question because I feel like we all have that moment or moments that change us in a good or bad way.
Yeah.
And I always say you can be as serious as you want, because it's good to, I guess, open up about it. And at the same time, it's kind of difficult. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. My microphone doesn't work. Did you try turning it off?
Okay. So we were getting really heavy into that, and I didn't turn on the microphone.
And take two.
God dang it. You recapped your 2017, and you took a photo that I think meant a lot to you, which is a beautiful photo. And you also wanted to give your thoughts on what you want to accomplish in 2018. So I took a few quotes from that, and I guess just to elaborate on those, and I'll explain to you why I picked them.
Sure.
Just for the quick emotion that captured me when I read that. So first one is, the purpose of your life is to live with that wonderful, terrifying contradiction. And like I was saying before about it, it's good to understand what's around you, and it's good to make yourself uncomfortable, because the thing that terrifies you or makes you scared could be the thing that you're supposed to be doing in your life. I heard that in an interview that I watched a while ago, and that always stays with me, because I'm always terrified of change every once in a while. I know it's good for you, but it scares the hell out of me, but it's a good thing. So I guess just why you kind of went that route and wrote that line.
So, one of my favorite songs is Saul Williams' Talk to Strangers. And it's more of a poetry. And my favorite line is, when you're open to it, vulnerability is power. And it's phenomenal. And it's the only song I've memorized in my entire life. I think the same thing is true, is you have to be vulnerable, you have to risk, you have to be afraid and terrified, because those things really bring you to your core. And then suddenly the things that were absolutely terrifying to you are the most beautiful things in the world. We get that analogy everywhere we go. But it's different when you think about it as opposed to when you feel it. And when you feel, it's a whole different experience, because then you understand the depth of it. it's hard for me to be a binary person when it comes to things that either are awe-inspiring to me or terrifying to me anymore. They're always both at the same time, and it's just a matter of the context that I experience them in. You know, when 900 miles away from your closest friends and family, taking a trip by yourself, it's a very different experience. It's like there's nothing, it's just you in that moment, and that's more defining than if you're seeing the exact same thing, you know, from your bedroom window. It's like, oh, okay, as opposed to, this is humbling. This is me out here by myself experiencing this, and whatever I get of this, I have me to kind of get myself through it.
So what did you kind of take away from that trip? You went to Asheville, North Carolina by yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a nice drive. It's a decent that's a decent drive.
It's a decent drive.
Beautiful drive though. But I guess what's that, you know, because that's, you know, I bet a lot of people watching this, me myself, that's one thing I would love to do. You know, I went to Utah with a friend of mine. I would love to go somewhere on my own, by myself, just to experience that excitement and I guess that nervous feeling of like, this could be cool or it could be awful.
Yeah, or both.
Yeah,
it'll be both.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my first test to myself of, I've spent like a year and a half researching, reading, learning about traveling, learning about going places by yourself, and it's very easy to learn these things and read about them until you actually do them. And for me, that was a big jump because I've spent most of my time saying, well, when I have a team together, you know, we'll get all these things done, and then you realize sometimes that team hasn't formed yet, and you can't keep waiting. So I had a purpose to go down there. I wanted to go to an exposition, and it was about overlanding. And it made sense, well, if I want to go somewhere about overlanding, I'm not going to fly there because that defeats the purpose of being there. So it's like, all right, let me see what I can put in my car, load it up, and take the trip down, and had everything in my vehicle. I got there, and it was absolutely amazing because whatever I needed, I'd packed, and it wasn't overpacked. It was just exactly what I needed to get me through to the next day, refill my supplies, and day by day by day, and I came back. And that photograph you mentioned, I didn't get that till on my way back on the highway, and I just pulled off 1 a.m. at a stop, and I was like, oh, scenic overlook of pitch black. And then a long exposure, you're like, wow, this is not New York. But that's kind of the part of it is you have to risk. You have to be like, okay, even if I feel unprepared or even if I'm waiting for something else, let me at least take the first steps towards getting there, and that makes all the difference. When you get there, you're like, bucket list item, accomplished, and you just keep going from it.
2018 will bring, but I know I will make the best of it and continue the deep work of self-discovery. It's scary. I'm not sure where it will take me, but I've got an entire universe that I can look to for an anchor point when needed.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of just ties into what you just said about that whole journey in there.
Yeah. It's, the first time I was in Asheville, the first time I was in Iowa, I saw the Milky Way in like the cornfields, and that puts everything into scale. You realize how tiny you are, even less than a grain of sand to the universe. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you're a living being and that you exist for all these years. Even if the universe is like, you're not even a speck. And it's humbling because it really challenges you to realize how time moves, how it works, and where you fit in that. But it also gives you a chance to kind of look deeper because you've kind of, the superficial things clear away after a while. And that's part of age, part of experience, part of just doing things. And you realize like, okay, well, who am I? What am I offering my community? What am I doing for myself to make my life better, you know? And
that's important.
It is. It's super important. And sometimes it's the selfish things like, I like taking a long hot shower, and that is my luxury, and that is my absolute pleasure in the world, and I will do what I can to have that. But other times it's like, I've realized a lot of things I want to do will take me on a more solitary path and a more solitary journey. And I have to be okay with that. It's part of it, and I'm sure through some very strange places, but that's where the journaling helps. It's your waypoint. It's your way back to, this is who I was, this is the steps I took to get here. Can I either retrace those steps back to a different understanding of who I was, or can I take those steps forward into building the newer version of me?
So, a few more.
Did you hit the record button?
I hit the record. Now you're second guessing myself. So, you're in Jakarta. You went over to Asheville for the overland exploration, and if you can have your dream car, whether it's old, current, gonna be new, or it doesn't even exist yet,
Okay.
what would it be?
My dream car is a Local Motors Rally Fighter. So it does exist. It's $100,000 and you build it yourself. And I've seen pictures of it off-roading, even though it's a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It's absolutely absurd.
You're one of those guys who will make it work, though.
I will. It's half the adventure. Any vehicle can do anything with the right modifications, even if it's not designed for it.
Right.
But more importantly, it's the idea you bring to whatever you're doing. I have these tools. I need to accomplish this. What is the safest way of doing that, even if it's not the right tool? Reality, I would love a Land Cruiser or an FJ Cruiser from Toyota, and that's where I have my eyes set right now. And just put a bed in the back and just start driving around. My goal is to hit all 50 states somehow.
Very
Alaska.
Yeah.
we'll plan that one.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's just getting out there. And I'm fortunate that I have a background in photography. I have a background in technology, so wherever I go, I can document, I can create. And that's probably more important. I can create content. I can write about it. I can take images and build something out of it, and hopefully that inspires someone else to at least start something, or at least have a conversation about something. But if anyone has an FJ Cruiser just hanging around, we'll see what I can do.
I'll have all your content info
right below.
One more thing. It's not really a question, just like an overall kind of like, I don't know. You play a very important part of my life, and the job that we're at now, it changed. It changed you. That you were saying before. It also changed who I am, because I've almost been there for 4 years, and I was a completely different person going into it. And as much as the job can have its hard times, it's given me a lot to my life, and I'm 100% grateful for that. And the biggest thing is the people that you're there with, the creativity that they do that you don't know, and that you just find out on random days. You're like, I never even knew you did that. I've known you for how long now, and you're just finding that out. But like I said before, I look to you as in a very high regard as far as somebody I need to be. I take value from you as far as the person you are, and I just want to thank you for that. And just so everybody can understand the kind of person you are, you've given people gifts, but you came back from Asheville and you got me a gift while you were down there. But you also wrote something to me that I look to on a day that I need that input. I need that deep breath as far as everything's going to be okay. And I keep it in the visor that you got me, along with the other note that you wrote to me as well. But it says, I gave you the Article 21 t-shirt, and you said, thank you for the t-shirt, and more importantly, the continual, positive, inspirational, and influential role you play in my daily life. You are a rare breed of human, and I'm blessed to be able to share my days with you. Here's to new adventures. So, right back at you. Love you, man. Thank you. And I wish you nothing but the best.